Hello everyone, and welcome to a strategy video on how to play the Germans in my Minsk scenario, the Jaws snapshot of the Bagration campaign of Memoir 44 breakthrough campaign that I'm in the process of designing. I already uploaded a strategy for the Russians, so this one will deal with how to play the Germans in this scenario. Well, first of all, we have this unit over here, and well, I could have placed an arrow facing the other direction as well. There's basically two things you could do with it at the beginning of the game. Move it here and try to engage the two partisan units. To slow them down at the very least. The German unit consists of 4 figures and the partisans consist of 3 figures each, so simply delaying them from reaching the exit hexes over here, blocking the German exit hexes, that's what you don't want them to do. So that's an option. Alternatively, these units themselves could try to head for the exit hexes. Basically, partially the same is true for this assault gun unit. Assault guns are a fan-made, not by me by the way, but a fan-made unit, a special weapons asset. Basically what it does is, if the terrain doesn't already grant them any cover, these units have +1 cover, so to speak, so units would roll 1 fewer die. And they can ignore 1 flag, and they cannot take ground. Well, I may have forgotten something, but those are the most important things. This one could also move for the exit hex, or it could engage this partisan unit over here so that they cannot easily team up to accomplish the same thing. Or it could move into this woods hex over here, for instance, to form a backup for these units over here, or also possibly to cover part of the center of the map. The 3 units defending Minsk, basically, or maybe it's 4. These could also move back, but the important thing to keep in mind is that you probably don't want to do that too early on. You want to do that when the unit is down to 1 or 2 figures, because if you do it too early on, it could give you the win, because again, the Germans start with 9 medals for controlling the town hexes and the 2 exit hexes. So you only need a couple more. So if you actually manage to exit those units early on, that might give you the win, or at least get you very close to the win. You need 18 medals to win this scenario. If you, however, fail and you fall slightly short of those 18 medals, if you exit full strength units, you will come up short later on, and then you would have needed them later on. So it's better to try and exit those units once they're down to 1 or 2 figures, and not when they're full strength. This unit, another assault gun unit, this one would have to take a slightly longer route. It functions as infantry. It could also move through the town hexes, but we'll have to stop a couple of times, so it will take a bit longer. If you want to exit it, you can also move it in the direction of the partisans there. You could leave it in place for quite some time. This unit is actually very important. It's an artillery unit, so it can basically assist the tanks and everything with long-range fire. It can somewhat cover the middle of the board should the Russians break through there and try to push towards Minsk via that direction mainly. And it's a very important unit. As you can see, it's also located in the center of the map, so it could fire on the German left side as well as using a center card. So those are definitely things you can do with it. So it's an important target for the Russians to take out as well, for instance, by means of an air power card. And the Russians can also use Recon 1 cards as air power cards. Something I forgot to mention last time for the Russians was the roads, and what I was trying to say with that is that once the Russians actually break through here at this village hex or town hex, Borisov, yeah, you have an uninterrupted road. So if you have a tank here, you could move, once you're actually here and you stay on the road, you could move 4 hexes. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and you're right away at the doorstep of Minsk. So yeah, of course, probably there will be some German units defending it, but you probably don't want to make it too easy for them to get there. Also, with infantry or an infantry assault card, you can get there very quickly. The railroads, on the other hand, for tanks, they have to stop each railroad hex they move into. So for tanks, that road, literally and figuratively, is a much harder option. What else do we have? These tank units could just stay in place for a long time. They have a very nice range of fire here. These pontoon bridges are not there at the start of the game. It was for the sake of illustrative purposes for the Russians, what they could do. But yeah, this is a very good defensive position. They can really take on infantry easily. They could move to the other side of the board to assist there, should the Russian main breakthrough take place there. These tanks could move onto the hill hex as well for some extra cover. A lot there really depends on the Russians' first turn and what happens there. But they can respond in many ways. They can, of course, also take on this particular Russian unit over here. Or, well, same goes basically for the Tiger. The Tiger could move on to the railroad hex in the beginning, or take on this very unit as well. If they're here, yeah, then there's really no other route in the beginning for the Russians other than going straight through the town hex. These infantry are caught in the open at the beginning of the game. They could, if this unit is pushed back and suffers casualties, so let's just say that 2 hits are scored and a flag is rolled, yeah, then it will be down to 2 units, and then it would be handy to perhaps move this unit in if it's still full strength. A lot depends on what the Russians do on turn 1, if they actually use these units, for instance, against this infantry unit. Yeah, so it might not be full strength, but if it is, then yeah, you really want to stay in possession of the town hex as long as possible, because it grants you a medal. It denies one to the Russians, which at that particular point is probably not very important, but it is very important to stay in control of the town and village hexes as long as possible. And as I said, if you also move the Tiger over here, you've really blocked everything, even though infantry could possibly still cross using the collapsible boats and rafts ability. But yeah, as long as the Germans are strong here, do you really want to do that? Because flags or hits, then you actually have to stop right away. You roll, you attack at -1. But yeah, that's what I would do with those units over here. Basically, the same is true here. Stay in possession of that town hex as long as possible for the same reasons I mentioned before. You could try to engage this particular unit over here. Of course, if this one moves up close, you will want to counterattack. Just stay in possession of that town hex as long as you can. I think that covers most of the units. This tank over here, again, depending on what the Russians do on turn 1 and the cards that you actually have at your disposal, this is a good defensive position to move it up on the hill. Units, of course, will roll 1 fewer die when attacking it. Yeah, this unit here, you probably, well, I already discussed that one. This unit is also very important, the naval warfare or the screaming memes. You could fire smoke shells and cover the retreat, or prevent units that are down to 1 or 2 figures from being targeted with those smoke shells blocking line of sight. Or otherwise it mostly functions as regular artillery. The thing to keep in mind is that they never benefit from any cover. So actually, even though they're in a woods hex here, they could be targeted normally, for instance, by tanks. So tanks would roll 3 dice normally and not just 1, so that is something to keep in mind. So it's a very important target for the Russians. Yeah, so you might even consider retreating it, but then if those tanks get to you very quickly, also depends on what these tanks did on turn 1, if they get to you before you can make it further back, then that's definitely a risky maneuver as well. Yeah, well, I think that covers. Yeah, what you could do, of course, you could move some of these German units back to the exit hexes as well. Not so much to exit them right away, but to, yeah, keep those exit hexes open for other units later on during the game. Well, I think that covers most tips for the Germans. Other than that, you really want to be aggressive with them. You have this big lead. You start with 9 victory medals, so you want to stay ahead and you want to, yeah, inflict more casualties on the Russians and prevent them from catching up. So be aggressive. Don't be too defensive and too careful and too cautious. Um, yeah, just when you have a good card and you think you can eliminate 1 or 2 units, by all means, use that card. So, thank you for watching and see you on the next one.